Hey everyone, Battlestar Galactica from 2004 is on Amazon Prime. It stars Katee Sackhoff, Edward James Olmos, Grace Park, and a lot of other familiar faces that I'm sure you'll know. It is this update of the wonderfully cheesy 1970s series for a brand new sci-fi savvy audience that preserves the core story idea while updating a few big things in the series. The 1970 series it does not hold up well in 2024, but does the 2004 series hold up today? I was curious. So I did a rewatch of all four seasons and I was kind of surprised by what I found. Remember, while you're here, do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. You will make my day. Thank you so much. Battlestar Galactica, or BSG as longtime fans call it, is a big, epic space story about war, robots, and the last vestiges of humanity. There's too much to cover here, so I'm going to focus on just some of the key elements for gauging how well the series aged. But I want to hear your thoughts on the things that I'm skipping over in this review, because there's a lot I'm not covering. There will also be a really big spoiler at the end of this review, so skip that bit if you are new to the series and don't want to be spoiled. Battlestar Galactica is the story of the 12 colonies and the human race who created the Cylons, which are basically these AI self-aware machines who rebelled and left the colonies. Then war breaks out between Cylons and humanity, and it's continued for decades. But things have changed with the Cylons developing these flesh-based bodies that have allowed them to infiltrate human worlds and decimate humanity. The surviving human ships gather around the Galactica, a decades-old battlestar, and they flee using faster-than-light drives to escape. So the series starts from there, with episode 1 as the fleet is forced to jump every 33 minutes because the Cylons have found a way to quickly track them and find them, setting up this desperate race through space as they try to figure out how to keep the Cylons from tracking them so quickly. It's exciting, it's engaging, and that's just the first episode. If you like science fiction, space opera, war films, and even technology stories that all center around the human experience, the big what if question in science fiction, and the clever blending of mythology and religion, you will absolutely be hooked. But does the story and the series hold up over 4 seasons 20 years later? The answer, it's yeah, it totally does. It actually does hold up, minus one really big problem, which is my spoiler at the end, that should not stop you from watching. Don't let it stop you. And in many ways, BSG was ahead of its time, making these issues and themes exceptionally relevant today. And here's why. BSG is a textbook example of episodic storytelling that has mastered the one episode story arc, the season arc, and the series arc, all of which are built on these 45-minute videos. And every Hollywood writer who is writing for streaming or network television should watch this show to see how multi-arc episodic television is done right. Even better, the series itself doesn't overstay its welcome by just dragging itself out into irrelevancy. It knows when to end on a high note. They nail the technology. BSG takes place on a spaceship that captures the general look and feel and logic of a naval ship operating during wartime in deep space while protecting a fleet of civilians. From intra-ship communications to maintenance, manufacturing, food production, and defensive functions within the fleet. Everything still feels right, even when you know the science isn't perfect. However, what they really do well is the AI and the precautions that they use to block the machines from penetrating their systems. They don't go into it overly deep, but you definitely get the idea they thought about it and they address it from time to time to make sure that you understand that these things are in place. What's astonishing here is that the writers back in 1978 established the Cylons in such a way that the 2004 writers could expand upon the idea of AI operating within physical bodies of metal or flesh, and the technology that sustains the Cylons still feels futuristic, relevant, and even plausible. The characters are the biggest change from the 1978 series to the 2004 series. Basically, those changes consist of switching Starbuck, played by Katee Sackhoff, and Boomer, or Cylon Model Number 8, played by Grace Park, from male roles to female roles. And while I'm all for diversity, I do not like arbitrary changes that don't fit the story. However, both characters have a strong story purpose that makes the overall story of the series work. In fact, the writers put in the time to figure out why changing the sexes or the genders of those characters would make sense in the context of the story. And that, I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. So many shows don't do that, but they do it in this series. And these changes that they made are essential to how the story operates. And that is how you create a diverse cast that feels organic and natural. No special messaging needed. The other big change is that the metal robots now have these organic counterparts that make up part of the Cylon race. And while there are a limited number of flesh models, there are thousands of them, and they all feel unique and similar at the same time because BSG takes the time to do character development for each of them, creating a solid sense of who you are dealing with on screen, as well as how they differ from the other instances of their model. And while the entire cast is particularly well chosen, the heart of the series is Admiral William Adama, played by Edward James Olmos, who personifies a leader at war, as well as a flawed father, a friend, a husband. The other standout includes Katee Sackhoff as Starbuck. She had to compete against the fond memory of Dirk Benedict in the 1978 series. However, Katee not only filled the role, but she redefined it as this flawed hotshot pilot with this kind of rough but softer side to her. Any series writer or actor who is changing a character's gender, race, or species in a TV series or film should absolutely look at how they handled Starbuck's transformation, because it's one of the strongest examples available, and they do a spectacular job with it. I've addressed the adaptation of the series from the 1978 to the 2004 series quite a bit already, especially when talking about the technology and the characters. As important as those things are to the strength of the story, the adaptation, updating of the story goes way beyond those elements. What they did with the adaptation is that they developed a full and rich mythology and religion that already existed within the BSG universe. And then they expanded on it, leveling it up. But they did that by including new elements, not rewriting or redefining things that kind of turn the universe upside down. They included the Cylons in the mythology, and then they expanded the mythology to include humanity's origin planet of Kobol and the path that they're looking for as they find their way to Earth, which is where the 13th colony went after humanity left Kobol for the stars. The entire structure of the series rotates around this aspect of the adaptation, giving the characters reasons and justifications for the choices that they make. And that creates purpose behind so much of the conflict. And it makes the adaptation and the story changes make sense. As a result, by leaning into the mythology and the religion as the core principles upon which the adaptation works, BSG could address any social issue in a natural way. And what makes Battlestar Galactica just ahead of its time is how it engineered the storytelling within the adaptation, which allowed the writers and the cast to really lean into their characters, making their beliefs, their prejudices, their fears, and their hopes to feel relevant to everyone, including the audience, including the very people who may not entirely agree with what's being said or done on screen, but it also allows them to understand the outcomes and to buy into the outcomes. The result of these stories being told within the larger story of humanity's fight or flight for survival take on such a greater relevance today than they did back in 2004 because of how they wrote the story. And that's how you make a series, or really any story that you're trying to tell, stand the test of time. Does it stay relevant? Does it gain relevance? Does it become a new way at looking at our past and our present as well as our future? Because I do not think this series could have been made today. I just don't. That's the difference between today's writers and the writers that put this show on 20 years ago. The one big issue that I had with this series was how they chose to end it, which means I definitely got to talk about spoilers. So if you didn't watch the series yet and you don't want to be spoiled, you should click off. But come back after you watch the series because you're definitely going to want to talk about the ending, I promise. But it won't ruin the series for you, even if it might annoy you a little bit, like it annoys me. Not everybody was annoyed by it, but I just feel like I have to address it. This theme of this has all happened before and will happen again is conveyed through religion, mythology, and those types of things, including an angel and a devil. Weren't really an angel and devil, but they're kind of interchangeable at times. So they're really just these two entities that are kind of moving things along or guiding a few characters from one point to the next on their way to Earth. However, when they get to Earth, it has already been destroyed by nuclear war, just like the 12 colonies were destroyed by war, just like Kobol, the original home of the humans, was destroyed by war. So that's where this has happened before, this will happen again ideology comes out in this series. And the humans and the Cylons do find this new livable planet with humanoid beings who they both can reproduce with. And the writers decide to make that our Earth, or Earth number 2. I would have preferred a less definitive reveal on what planet that planet actually was. I also think that it is unrealistic for the humans and Cylons to give up their technology so completely and go down to this prehistoric planet in small groups around the globe and send their ships into the sun. That's just not realistic. Plus, by doing it, they have effectively eliminated all of the history and all of the learnings that both races went through to get to this point where they could live together, forcing the future people of Earth, or the humans, to relearn it all and to be confronted by the same circle of choices 150,000 years later. While this choice does tie up some threads kind of nicely, it just feels like way too perfect and way too on point And it also keeps us from fully exploring the what if question that was originally proposed by the series by giving us this firm and fixed answer and resolution to the story. Overall, Battlestar Galactica absolutely remains one of the strongest and most poignant science fiction series that has been developed in a really long time. If you like sci-fi, I highly recommend it. If you like exciting stories, strong characters who just refuse to conform to your expectations and constantly surprise you, and writing that makes sense while doing new and creative things and staying within the rules of the storyverse, I think you will really like this series as well. So, Battlestar Galactica, have you seen it? What did you think of this series, or are you thinking of watching it? If so, let me know. I would love to chat with you about it in the comments below. Also, I couldn't cover everything here. So what did I miss? What did I skim over that you really want to talk about? Let's do it. Let's chat. So let me know. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you enjoy Battlestar Galactica. And if you got to the end, please do give this review a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos because there are definitely more coming. In the meantime, happy viewing, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.